Two lawmakers are sounding the alarm over a new rule that aims to prevent foreign adversaries from purchasing land near sensitive U.S. military sites. In a letter to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, Republicans Greg Murphy and John Moolenaar say there are crucial locations that the new restrictions do not cover, including Coast Guard facilities and Department of Energy labs. Congressman Dr. Greg Murphy, Republican from North Carolina, joins me now live on the show this morning for more here. Congressman, you and Representative Moolenaar have made the point that China would never allow Americans to buy land next to sensitive Chinese bases. So why in the world are we? How does the government answer that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Marky. I think it's very true. You know, these hostile nations, Russia, China, are taking advantage of our democracy and the fact that people oftentimes want to get the best price for their land. But they're pulling them around sensitive sites. And while military bases, we absolutely have to protect those, we also have to protect things like telecommunications, our laboratories, energy grid areas for our own personal security and our own national safety. And so we have to include those. That's what we're asking Secretary Yellen to include on her list of things that we have to keep an eye on.
And what exactly are the loopholes that you're hoping to close? And how do you go about doing it? How many hurdles do you have to jump to make that happen?
Well, both on the federal and state level that we're working this. I'll give you an example. In North Carolina, in the state legislature, we closed that loop, but then trying to get things done on a federal level, this is where we're trying to, be our good components for our local, but our national area, where if, for example, the state has not done something, the federal government does need to step in and try to protect our resources and our national security areas.
The numbers are pretty staggering, right? I mean, the Department of Agriculture estimates that companies tied to the Chinese Communist Party own at least 384,000 acres of American farmland. But this new rule, correct me if I'm wrong, but this new rule would not be applied retroactively. It would only apply to new purchases. So does that defeat the purpose of restrictions if these companies can still hang on to 400,000 acres?
Yes and no. Yes, it does apply for future purchases, but we're actually also asking Secretary Yellen to go back and look retroactively at some of these areas. In North Carolina, we have a huge hog production, Smithfield Foods, which is now owned by the Chinese Communist Party. And so we're asking the secretary, look, this is great moving forward, but we also have to go back and look retrospectively. What are these companies doing? What type of espionage could they be involved in? Again, getting back to the basics is how do we protect our national security in these very bellicose times?
Yeah, and less than a minute, I understand you have somewhere to be pretty soon. What's your biggest fear? Worst case scenario when you think about China being in our own backyard?
Well, the Chinese people, again, as we go to battle, sadly enough, with some companies or countries, rather, the people themselves are fine. But the Chinese Communist Party, President Xi, has made it very clear, they want a one world domination of the Chinese Communist Party. And so you worry about whether they've involved in espionage of some areas, infiltration of other areas. I mean, we just saw the governor of New York have a Chinese spy within her network itself. This is really something that America needs to stand up and be attention to. We have so many in this country who believe in butterflies and unicorns and that everybody's playing nice.
Yeah.
These hostile countries are not playing nice, and we need to stand up to them.
Yeah, and you just brought up a great point that we just saw this play out to some extent with two governors, New York governors, and the spy within their ranks. Congressman Murphy, thanks so much. Hope you come back on soon and keep us posted.
Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless.